Well, I guess I'm here. Now, yeah. Let's find me on YouTube. Is that possible? There we go. Well, good morning, good morning, good morning. It's springtime. Or is it? No, at least our clocks are ahead. We'll go there. So, yeah, some people have picked up the book, starting to get some emails. Obviously, we're getting emails about some other issues on YouTube lately, but yeah, some interesting stuff going on lately. But let's go back to just the book stuff. What do you think? Springtime, is it your fault? Did you slip off the driveway this winter? Did you tear up some of that grass? Or did you oversalt? Oops. You know, a lot of people do that. Want to try and stay ahead of that ice and what have you. But the first thing you want to know is, all right, how do I repair that? Well, first off, you didn't do any damage. Grass is underneath. Grass is under the soil. So what you want to think about doing is amping things up, waking things up early. Yeah, there's a couple of recipes, but the one I'm going to fall back on the most is just that hint of ammonia in the gear grade molasses, and spray around the edge of the driveway and sidewalks and along the street line. You kind of want to get them going first. You can check with like CGI Turf and some of these other guys, Alan Hain, the lawn care nut. And they'll all tell you, along your street lines and your cement lines, that's where you're going to get the concentration of heat first. And that's what's gonna pop up first. And that's kind of where you want to strengthen things first. Yeah, you can add new seed, but if you follow the guide and you follow my recommendations from last month, you need 8 weeks from the time you put the weed and seed down before you can put grass seed down. So I wouldn't recommend putting any seed down for a while yet. Another month. What are we, March? Mid-April, maybe? What is that they say? April showers bring May flowers? That's when you want to be putting that stuff down. Hey, Mr. Junkyard. Never your fault, huh? Tara's Crazy Life. Good morning. How do I keep the Japanese beetles off the apple trees this year? Ooh, that's a good one. That's such an invasive species that even a healthy tree can't stop them. They are looking for sweet. So before you go into bloom, before you go into blossom on your trees, order in some beetle bags. That's kind of what they're called. It's a yellow, lady-shaped, wide hips, narrow waist, healthy upper body, scented bag that just dangles on a wire that they provide. And there's a little scent capsule in there that will draw them in. So you want those about 5 feet away from the apple tree, actually, because you don't want them landing in the tree looking for it. You want them elsewhere. So, yeah, you can protect your apple orchard by running some of those. I've heard some things about citronella driving them a little crazy and making them a little nuts. Um, I don't know that that's true. They tend to like a heat source. Um, they want someplace warm. I don't know that I would go that direction. Hey, Mr. Purple Gang, what's going on, my friend? Oh, oh, why didn't I have you in there, Tara? Well, we can fix that. That's an easy thing to do. Okay. Why isn't it taking? Um, well, sugar water is going to draw in a bunch of other things you don't want getting trapped in those bags, junkyard. Um, sugar water is going to bring in your bees and your other pollinators and a few other things. These Asian beetles, they're real specific. They're looking for like a pungent, sweet, like from an apple tree, and that kind of stuff. They're and they'll devastate an orchard. I I I I wonder whether mud wasps would be effective because I know they will attack the, but that's a completely different animal and a completely different issue. Um, but yeah, I would go there. I would look for the beetle bags and get them about 5 feet away from the apple trees before they start going into bloom. Next month actually, and stay ahead of that. But what I was referring to was, how do we start our grasses going? Tara, why isn't that taking? I keep putting you in as moderator and it just doesn't want to go. I don't understand what's going on here. I don't want you getting hit by anybody, by mistake even. What in the world? All right, well, if it doesn't take, I'll address it after the stream, and we'll make sure it gets locked in, get that wrench there. Um, green up and clean up. I've talked about this before as far as plow companies and cities and what have you, and all this stuff getting trapped in the snow and then getting down in your yard. I mean, it will do a number. The beautiful Bermuda grass that you see in Florida even goes dormant during these conditions. And with it not growing, it's going to collect all of that garbage, all of that mess, all of those fumes, what have you. If you've got ant issues throughout your yard for different reasons, I mean, they're not a bad thing. Um, this is that time of year you want to get out there and get the soap going. Get the Dawn lemon scented soap out there and wash the yard down. It's time to get that really cheap beer, start cracking those 6 packs open and letting them things go stale for weeks on end, sitting in the garage or something, um, so that you can use that as a feed, that hops. You want to talk about greening up your yard. You spray down your yard in a bunch of beer. Oh my God, does it turn. Um, but this is that time of year. It's cleanup time. It's too cold to cut, too damp to really get into anything, but those are the perfect conditions to start washing stuff out. Hey, good morning, Pecan baby. How are you, dear? Um, get your beer together. Get that little hint of ammonia going. Call the worms in. Get them active again. Um, get your alfalfa down. Give them something to eat as it starts to break down. Um, follow the guide. Somebody a few weeks ago got the guide, they read the book, and they went and took directly out of the coffee maker coffee grounds and put them on a house plant. Oopsie, 3 plants dead. Oops, didn't read the guide, didn't pay attention. Um, you keep your coffee grounds all winter long. You rinse them thoroughly, and then you stick them in a container and you let them go moldy. That's the coffee grounds we're talking about. We're not talking about directly out of a coffee maker. It was funny. Oh my God, I'm still laughing because they missed that one little bit. As small as my book is, as informative as my book is, you miss those little itty bitty details, and oopsie. Uh, Tara, if you're gonna do that, see if you can't find last year's untreated mulch at some of these some of these stores. It'd be tore up bags and miscellaneous. Um, you know who Howie is. Huga culture is what I'm talking about. You build those beds, line the bottom of those beds with untreated mulch and some scraps of miscellaneous, or even shredded up cardboard for for stuff to break down. Um, Preferably wood. Um, Even leaves if you can mulch them and grind them up, like run them over with a lawnmower and then pour them into the beds that you're going to make. Um, when the breakdown happens, when Mother Nature does her thing and starts breaking down those leaves or those cardboards or those wood chips, um, it's going to start pulling the minerals out, and that's what you want available to your plants. Now, if you follow the guide, obviously you don't need mineral supplements, but you do need organic matter. Organic matter is key in all soils. That's why we have clay in a lot of cases, because there's no living organic matter. Nothing there breaking down in the clay bed, so it's vacant of life and becomes clay. So as we put the life back in and start breaking it apart, we get a much healthier bed, much stronger bed. So for lack of minerals, yeah, put your some scraps down inside those beds. Um, Now I know a lot of different gardeners and what have you that want to build raised beds. Um, they want uniformity, and they want pretty, and they want this and they want that, and they're going to go to a hardware store and they're going to get this pretty border, and they're going to get the lumber that's treated, and they're going to do all, and make it all fancy and all nice, and so so the neighbors don't complain, and yeah, hogwash. um don't do that. The store-bought stuff's got chemicals in it that you don't want in your soils, whether it be lumber, what have you. Unless you know somebody like Grizz that can give you fresh cut wood from a just fallen tree, um, cinder blocks, cinder blocks for your raised bed. They are also a moisture controller. They will store water when the food web comes in contact with it. It'll put a film over the bricks and retain and hold moisture for you. Obviously, when the cinder block is turned sideways too, that's little pockets. I would recommend you planting marigolds and that kind of stuff, but every once in a while, leave an empty pocket for tools, someplace to stand stuff up in. Um, Gemma, good morning, dear. Good morning. Good morning. Thanks for stopping in. Um, right. Well, see, and that's the issue. You end up what you end up with is a dead zone. Now, when you use the old railroad ties that had the tar on them and what have you, that saturates into the soil, and you give yourself a dead zone of about 6 inches all the way around your garden. Now, when you follow through with the principle in the Green Wizard's Guide, and you have your cover, you have your little bit of uh, leaves or cover crop growing, anything to cover the soil to keep the soil from seeing sunlight. Um, the food web comes in contact with bricks, cinder blocks, basically, is your best bet. Um, because some of the others are glazed and some of the others are this and that, what have you. Um, but it'll put this film of organic life, the food web itself, right on the bricks and store moisture for you and help protect and help take care of those plants in that bed. The other great thing to think about, depending on how high you're going to go up, Tara, and I would say two course of bricks, and then do a 6 inch filler, and then start backfilling with local soils. Um, and obviously, you can put in leaves throughout your layers. The more you layer your soils going into this, the better off you will be because it gives the plants a chance to break through certain areas that are going to have moisture content, that are going to have organic living materials, that are going to have this, going to have that. Um, it's just going to be healthier for the plants and make the soil softer, more aerated. The worms are going to do that as well. But what you want to do is take a little pocket, someplace out of view that you don't necessarily or you're not necessarily going to see. Take an old plastic or metal bucket, cut the bottom out of it. You want the lid too, but cut the bottom out of it so that the worms can come in, and drill a bunch of holes throughout that thing. And what you're doing is you're building a compost bin. A little 5 gallon bucket doesn't seem like a whole lot. But when you start thinking about the materials that come out of your kitchen that you could potentially use, obviously no citrus, but just go over to that little bucket, take the lid off, throw that stuff down inside there, put the lid back on. Those worms are going to have all of that great food in abundance to snack on. And the reason I say take the bottom off is because next season, next year, you can pull that bucket up out of that spot and have a abundant soil and move the bucket to another spot in your garden and feed that area with a compost bucket. Oh, oh yeah, they're in messing. I found a couple of bells missing this morning, where I've missed a couple of people's videos because of that stuff. Well, yeah, those those are helpful floating devices for hot tubs and what have you. Yeah, yeah. Um, I'm envious. Wish I had it. Um, oh, that's awesome, Tara. Well, I'm just saying because what you don't want is you don't want all your worms concentrated in one specific spot in your yard. So when you do a little compost bucket, if that's what you want to call it, um, right in your garden, it gives them added incentive. It gives them added reason to come in because they're looking for the food web. You don't want your whole food web devastated by the worms and other things coming in. So you give them another spot. You give them other places they can concentrate because they're going to come and go depending on the temperature variables, okay, and moisture content. So they'll be moving in and out of that bucket through all the drilled holes and going throughout your garden and obviously leaving great trails of manure behind, which also helps the food web, also helps with aeration, also helps with moisture control. So you're just giving them another, let's call it a lunch table. Put a little lunch table in there, a little 5 gallon lunch table in there. And you can even take compost from your other 4x4 area and put that in there. Some place that didn't break down quite as well, that needs a little bit more time breaking down, that kind of stuff, move that over there. Obviously, the only thing you want to watch is that it never gets too hot. Anything over 160 is bad compost. It's going to turn toxic. So you kind of want to keep track of that. The thing we're trying to do here is little as possible of you needing to go in and water. You shouldn't have to water and you shouldn't have to weed. If it's done right, all of that stuff should be taken care of for you right there in your garden with everything you've got growing and or protecting the soils. Hey, Johnny, what's going on, buddy? So yeah, all of this is just basically, today was just green up. How to look at your yard and know what's going on. You gotta clean up the mess that the neighbors have blown into your yard through snow plowing and what have you. Got to clean that up. Got to get that out of there. Got to wash down the grass. Can't cut anything. You could aerate, but you got to make absolutely certain you're not going to get freezing temperatures from now on in your area before you aerate. You don't want to start punching holes and then all of a sudden we get a frost or we get another little snowstorm come in and damage all the roots around all those aeration holes. That's not going to do us any good. You can get temperature probes, Tara. Um, composting, that's a completely different world. That's a you can compost in a 3x3 circle um, of cattle fence and have that thing ready in a week by just keeping the 50% moisture concentration and keeping it in the sunlight. Obviously, to keep the concentration, you have to keep it covered. You have to go in when you're doing it that fast. You have to go in monitoring things so much and pulling a third of it off, flipping it over, getting it fed back in, getting your moisture content back up. Um, oh no, compost will generate its own heat, dear. What a lot of greenhouses will do, if they've got enough room, is they will move chicken compost of all things inside the um, inside the greenhouse because it generates its own heat and will heat the greenhouse all winter long. So yeah, compost will do its own thing. Even under snow, it'll run its own heat. You just don't want it over 163 is the actual number. I just say at 160, start breaking that thing apart and just flip it. Just turn it over. Hey, Iron Fire, what's going on? Miss Southern Belle, welcome, welcome. Well, my book doesn't go into composting. I wanted to concentrate more so on your yard and your understanding of what is going on. Because when you transition that same knowledge into your garden, you take where you're used to an 8 foot plant, an 8 foot tomato plant, what have you, and 50 or so tomatoes into something that's 19 feet long and hundreds of pounds of tomatoes because you understand what's going on in the soil and you take care of the soil. When the soil's weed free and the soil is protected and the moisture content takes care of itself, a lot of incredible things start to happen in your plants. You get fewer bugs, fewer weeds, fewer problems. all from the knowledge of what you had in your yard, and just transition it into the garden, because they're the same thing. I keep trying to remind people, when you take care of your yard, take care of your garden the same way, and vice versa, to bring back what your yard and your garden need. So take care of it that way. Well, be careful, Iron Fire. You and I may appreciate how nice it's getting and everything else, but there's still those people out there that are paying more attention to their cell phones than they are about everybody else driving around them. You know what I mean? Oh. No, pecan. And I have to go in and look today. My accountant is after me to give them all the actual numbers, and um, yeah, for a year online, um, I'm even discouraged even to say that I've been working at this a year and done so badly. Um, the numbers are shocking. I'm almost at the point where I'm ready to just shut it off and walk away. Um, it it yeah, the book has not done well at all. Um, Iron Fire. Yeah, you're right. You're right. Sometimes they forget which pedal is which. You see a lot of them down in Florida. Turn banks into drive-throughs and stuff. Because they step on the brake, which is the accelerator. They go full force, buddy. So yeah, you might want to think about that. But then again, the good side is the snowbirds aren't coming home yet, so you're kind of safe in the upper states. um, but yeah, you have to treat your yard the same as you treat your garden, and vice versa. They are one and the same. You don't ever want to build a pocket garden where everything under the garden is doing incredible well and thriving and what have you, because what you're doing is turning your garden into a water bowl. Yeah, the soils may be opening up and it may be getting deeper and deeper, but what's your grass in your yard doing right next to your garden? Is it getting better? Is it getting healthier? Or is it getting harder and more compact as you're walking around it, what have you? And I'm not saying that you can't walk around your garden. Absolutely, you can. But you've got to treat the two the same, because the food web needs to get out of there. If the food web gets trapped inside your garden, inside your raised bed, what have you, and it can't go deep and protect itself, you're creating a water bowl. And you're going to have tomato rot. You're going to have this. You're going to have that. You're going to have roots that aren't the size they should be. There's hey Nathan Lee, what's going on, buddy? How you been? Yeah, that you're gonna end up with other issues caused by this pocket effect, um, where water should be soaking into the soil and going deep. And I've said this before, and I know it's going to shock some of you, but um, when they go out, when colleges go out and they check areas that have been untouched and are all natural, and nature doing her thing, the soils are 40 feet deep. We're talking topsoil, full of living organisms, full of roots, full of everything. Your garden should be able to reach below your soil line or your grass line and go very deep into the soil. My yard, after all these years, I don't dare go out there with a probe. I will lose it. Um, we use in some of the cement stuff that I used to do, we use 5 foot probes for testing soil conditions to see if we can call that, that ground solid enough to pour certain types of cement on it for a foundation. And if I were to take one of those probes with its T handle and put it in my front yard, it would sink completely down. All 5 feet of that probe would go all the way down and keep going, except that the handle would grab the top of the grass. That's how deep your topsoil should be. All living organic matter, roots, and what have you. When you walk through your yard and you start seeing roots from the trees that are growing in your yard or the next door neighbor's yard, something's wrong. You're not getting root penetration, and your yard is starting to compact. You're losing a lot of the organic matter that should be there. Oh, let me try again, Tara. Maybe I'm just not logged in right or something. I don't know. But yeah, green up time. Get your old, cheap, stale beer, little bit of ammonia. These are things right out of your house. These are all in the book. Get these things right out of your house. Um, I know some of you are sitting back saying, "Why would I waste beer?" No, go get some Genesee or something. Go. Not this high end, alcohol free, 3-for-1 beer or any of this. Just something cheap. Um, Full flavor, nothing. You want the full effect of the hops, and let that stuff go bad in your garage. Let it turn flat. That's what you want. Flat beer, because there's no alcohol left in it. Pour it in a big stainless steel bucket. Let it sit in the garage overnight or something. That's the stuff you want. That's going to green up your yard. Something incredible. Just a hint of ammonia, some beer, hose end sprayer, and go to town. Add a little bit of soap. There's I keep trying to remind people every time they water their yard, they need to get out there with just that hint of Dawn soap, because it causes a liquefaction factor. It washes off this film that builds up on your grass, that builds up on your leaves, that builds up on your trees. And when you wash that off, your grass becomes more susceptible to water. It can soak it directly in through the leaf much faster than normal. I mean, if you've ever walked out in your yard after a fog or after a little bit of rain, the morning dew is what they call it, and you see it all beaded up on your grass, that's a sign that it's time to wash the grass. That's the sign that you need just a little hint of Dawn in a hose end sprayer, and um, get that washed off, because all of that should be soaking into your yard. When fog hits our neighborhood, it soaks into my yard. It's like a vacuum sweeper. You can watch it. The fog dissipates directly over my house first, and then it starts drinking the rest of the neighborhood. Yet every other yard I can walk around, you can see beads of water in everybody's yard, not mine. And that's what you want. You want all that moisture, every little bit of it. This is why you wouldn't have to water your garden. As these conditions improve in your soils, it soaks up more and more water faster than you can imagine. Yeah, malt liquor is fine. You just don't want any alcohol. Yeah, alcohol's just not good for organic material. That's where I kind of made my mistake, but that's part of it. As you read in the book, and you'll get a good laugh out of it. Some of the mistakes I made, um, as I was going through my yard and doing some of the things, especially with the pumpkins I lost. Um, I was actually hurting the soil conditions by using some high paid people's advice, feeding my soils, because I was doing, in a sense, what the NPK process that I warn everybody about. Don't do, don't follow, don't listen to, stay away from. It's all chemical based. It's all about what three chemicals, nitrogen, phosphorus, what have you, to throw on your garden. Wrong, 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 wrong. You don't need any of those. Use nature. Nature will do it for free. Stay away from that NPK process. And I wasn't. And when I sat down after I ripped out all the pumpkins and realized what was going on and could smell the two soils side by side, I knew what I had done wrong. Yes, and there's a product out there called urea that you use in the winter as for ice in driveways and sidewalks that will green up your yard something unbelievable. And that's one of the reasons they use it. Not only does it run at a much lower freezing temperature, but it doesn't hurt the soils. It actually amps things up when it's done in the right way. You've got to be careful using urines, because some of those can be extremely hot, extremely pungent. You know, if your animals aren't healthy, you're going to have some other issues. That's why some dogs, some of the, especially these little pocket dogs and purse dogs, you know, they put them out in the yard and then you get a burn spot in the yard because it's so toxic because they're not healthy. Um, but yeah, use nature. Use nature. Save money. Don't spend all that money. Oh my God, I was so stunned. You know, $150, and I bought 3 years worth of supplies for my yard of all natural stuff. And then I went to the big box store and I looked for the same type of stuff in the same quantities for just this year, and it was going to cost me over 250 for the same year. Hey, good morning, Robert. So $250 versus $150. I've got 3 years worth of supplies for 150. Next year I have to go spend another 250 for the NPK process. Start adding that up. Okay, that's another $500 you're going to spend on your yard in 3 years. And I only spent it 1 year, $150 in 3 years worth of supplies for my yard. So think along those lines. It's your money. Why give it to somebody else? Why give it to a chemical company that's going to make your yard sick? That's going to make your yard toxic? That's going to hurt your garden and not allow. Good morning. Saw you slip in there. So when you start thinking about the NPK process and you start thinking about the way they keep preaching about, is your soil acidic? Is it neutral? Do you have this? Do you have that? Do you know, stop and look at the price tag. If you're going to pick up a bag of something from a store, flip that bag over and look at the ingredients. If there's a bunch of numbers on there or a bunch of words you can't pronounce, you probably don't want to be putting that down in your yard and your garden. It's toxic. It's a chemical. You know, the stuff I put down barefoot. My dogs go out, they love the smell of the stuff, they eat it. This stuff is not toxic. This stuff is not dangerous. You know, a lot of your chemical spray companies that come out and take care of your yards, and you know which trucks I'm talking about that you see, and the guys dragging the hose around your yard. You know, they warn the owner. They warn the people that live there. You know, don't walk around in your yard for the next 24 hours or so. Yeah, because it'll burn your flesh. It's toxic. It's dangerous. Don't let your dogs out because we just sprayed today. What? Yeah, you don't want that stuff down in your yard. You sure as heck don't want that stuff down in your garden. And then you're gonna try and eat that stuff. What are you doing to your health? What are you doing to yourself? Yeah, we need all these minerals and we need all. Why would you be going to the grocery store and buying a bunch of these minerals and supplements and this when you can get it right out of your garden for 89 cents for a bag of seeds. Come on, you can get healthier by just having a healthier yard and a healthier garden and not be spending money on all these supplements. I mean, we could go through, and I would love to put a whole category in the next book. Um, if I ever release the next book, I would love to put a category in there telling you, look, you need this plant, and this plant so that you get this mineral, and this mineral. And these are the things you need to be growing in your yards and your gardens because that's the kind of details and that's the kind of information we all really need. We need to know what our bodies need. We need to know what we're eating. We need to know that this is the healthiest stuff possible. If you're not growing in a garden, raised bed, growing in pots, okay, and controlling those conditions in those soils, you don't know what you're eating. When you go to a big box store and you get a bag of fertilizer, you flip that thing over and it's a bunch of chemicals and it's got warnings on it. Wear gloves, wear breathing apparatus, wear this, wear that, wear. Really, do you really want to be putting this in your body? This is just common sense stuff now. You know, you start saturating your body with a bunch of chemicals and then things start happening. You start gaining weight. Your memory starts getting foggy. Your reaction time starts to drop. I mean, come on. One of the biggest things I heard lately, one of the nights when I was out plowing, I was listening to George Norrie and he had a doctor on, a heart specialist. And one of the first things he said is if you know somebody who has suffered from a heart attack or you're there when it happens, give them a pepper because the capsaicin will protect the person's heart. Yeah, just a green pepper or a yellow bell pepper. Or if they're a pepperhead, get them into the hotter stuff. It will protect the human heart. So grow peppers. It's going to protect your heart. Eat more peppers, raw peppers, boiled pepper, whatever. It's got the capsaicin in it. As to what level you can tolerate, that's entirely up to you. But for somebody who's suffered from a heart attack directly in front of you right now, and the doctors are saying, give them capsaicin. It will protect their heart and the heart muscle. Wow, wouldn't that be great to have that in a gardener's guide and have that information right there at your fingertips to know what you should grow and what you shouldn't? That's just like, okay, Tara, if you're going to go and you're going to build these raised beds and you're looking for soils, what have you, and you have no choice but go to the big box store to to get bags of what they're going to call potting soil or topsoil or what have you. Um, Grow sunflowers, please. The sunflower has the ability of going in and pulling out heavy metals and toxins directly out of soil and directly out of your yard. And you can throw the sunflower away and it will clean the soil and detoxify your soils. I recommend every 2, 3 years, grow a batch of sunflowers somewhere in your garden, somewhere in your yard to just help detoxify the soils themselves because it has a way of absorbing the heavy metals that hurt us, getting them out of the soils so that they don't end up in the foods, and neutralizing them in such a way that you can throw them away and not cause a future problem somewhere else. Everything that you grow in your yard is going to deplete your soil. Okay. There's so much in the soil. It gets trapped in the clay bed, though. So as you open up the clay bed, more things become available. And as you read my guide, you're going to find that there's a lot of different tricks that you can use to help Mother Nature supplement soils and to bring things on. That's why in a lot of cases you hear a lot of your farmers and your gardeners talking about remineralizing the soil or adding organic materials such as compost and what have you back into the gardens and back into the yards because we're depleting them. Your grass just growing in your yard is depleting the soil of some of the things that are there that grass needs to be grass, to be green, to be growing, to do. And as you start adding these things back in, it's going to just amplify everything. It's all in the guide. I've held nothing back. All of that information is in the guide, where you can get it, what the sources are for it, and where to get it the cheapest possible. And in some cases, even delivered directly to your house. So, yeah, certain plants, they're using some trees um, in the old explosives fields where we used to go with our tanks and tankers used to fire shots off just to get used to the sound and the vibration in the tank and to try and break the tank and what have you. And that round would go down range and explode and what have you and leave gunpowder residue behind. Well, it turns out there's a tree, very specific type of tree, that they're now growing around those fields that will pull that stuff directly out of the soil, put it in the leaves, and neutralize the gunpowder that was left behind. Mother Nature has incredible ways of fixing what we screw up. All we have to do is give Mother Nature a chance and help her along the way. And the end results, which would be what comes out of your garden and what grows in your yard, and you better oxygen, better food, healthier yard. The idea that you can walk around your yard and it's like walking on a pillow blows people's minds. But that's reality. That's Mother Nature's way. And as you and I hate to go back to this aspect of it, but a lot of people, especially now dealing with PTSD and these endless wars and the nightmares that some of us deal with in our personal lives, you know, taking care of a yard and taking care of a garden, um, these things are very, very good for you. As you come in contact more so with the earth, barefoot, hands on in the soil, and dealing with the plants and what have you, there's a calming effect. There's a chemical release that happens in the brain that relieves some of these PTS stresses. It is very stress free and very, 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 very healthy. You know, with the diets that we currently have, just like coffee. And I know I love my coffee and I'm never going to walk away from my coffee. But coffee and some of the supplements that are in the coffee actually cause stress and amplify stress levels. Some people don't know that. That's why they're starting to push this green tea idea, because you're going to get the same effects from green tea, waking your body up, getting yourself going without the and I'm going to be a loss for the word here, or a lack for the word, without the depression causing effects of coffee. And I know that sounds really odd, but um, oh no, absolutely, no, 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 no. Everything, everything, once growing, is compostable. So all your coffee grounds, absolutely, that's a high nitrogen base. When it breaks down, that's why I say if and I love clover. Don't misunderstand. I love clover to death because it is Mother Nature's way of amping up your yard and giving it a nitrogen boost from out of nowhere. When you take those coffee grounds and you've rinsed them thoroughly and you allow them to start composting and start to mold, and you take them out into a big clover field and you sprinkle them around, they amp up the nitrogen too, and the clover will actually go away and move to someplace else in your yard that is missing nitrogen. That's what clover is. Mother Nature, and I try to explain this in the book, Mother Nature has provided us all of these incredible plants to help us take care of our yards. They used to, when you bought seeds back in the 50s, they used to have a certain percent of clover mixed in with the grass seed to give you the natural nitrogen boost that clover pulls in from the air and sticks in the soil. It pulls nitrogen directly out of the air and leaves these little blast capsules of nitrogen that when the grass comes in contact with it, it amps the grass up and turns it bright green. Okay. So clover in your yard is a sign that you're missing nitrogen, that it needs a boost of nitrogen. Now, yeah, you can go to the beer recipe and you can amp it up that way, but that's temporary. If you're going to have a big party and a bunch of people in your yard, a big cookout, what have you, about 2, 3 days before you do that, go spray your yard down with beer and get that healthier, get it greener, because it's going to handle the stress of all of those people walking in the grass 10 times better than if you just left it alone. Hey, good morning, Mystic. How are you doing, dear? Yeah, there's a lot of wrenches that just are not coming up. I'm putting everybody through and it's not coming up for me for some reason. I'll get it squared away. We'll get you guys your wrenches because I don't want anybody bumped by mistake by anybody. And you're all friends of mine. I trust all of you. I'll get it squared away. It's starting to annoy me at this point because I'm seeing too many now. But yes, coffee grounds are wonderful, 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 wonderful for the yard, for the garden, for compost especially. You want a compost pile that's going to have plenty of nitrogen. Throw dead coffee grounds in there. And the decaffeinated is just a chemical process. They wash something out, okay, and try and lower certain levels. Hey, Mr. Mike Wolf is in the house. Welcome, buddy. Um, so yeah, keep your coffee grounds. Um, K-cup coffee grounds are fine. I mean, obviously, you don't want to put plastics and some of these other materials in your compost piles. They never break down. You know, this generation wants to complain to us about how we are unearth friendly. We have all these plastics and this, that, and the other. Well, take a look at their clothes and take a look at this, that, and the other. And take a look at how many cell phones they have that are all plastics and what have you. You know, my parents' generation used to have paper bags. My parents' generation used to have all glass bottles for everything. They took those away. We were a nation of people paying attention to these kind of circumstances. We didn't have the waste 40, 50 years ago that is now floating in our streets and now floating in our oceans and our rivers. You know, our rivers used to run clean unless there was a gigantic rainstorm and a mudslide somewhere. Our rivers used to run pristine, clean. You could see to the bottom, you could see the fish. That's nature's way. You get into cities and everywhere else, and you can't find clear running rivers anywhere because of this NPK process, because of the waste, because of the chemical treatments that we have done to everything and everything breaking down. It's a different world. It's a much different world. You know, when everybody has to start looking at the grocery store and looking at the big box stores and looking at Sam's Clubs and what have yous to buy clean, supposedly clean water to drink at home because we know that the stuff that's coming from our city is so toxic, there's something wrong. You know, I've been to these water treatment plants. I have been in there and worked in those places, and I have drank the water that is fresh out of the filtration system. And you want to talk about clean water. You want to talk about something that is flavorful and refreshing. It's incredible the water that they actually have at the filtration plant versus what they send out to the city. You know, when they start putting the fluorides in and they start adding chemicals to treat the pipes and they start doing this and start doing that, and start doing the other, and you're drinking those at home and you're making food with those at home, there's a problem. There's a big problem. You know, they don't want you keeping rain barrels. You're going to see a lot of this. They don't want you collecting your own rainwater because, oh my God, you might actually start to see what they're spraying on all of us in the air and from the jet planes and what have you. They don't want you seeing what clean water actually looks like versus the stuff coming out of your tap. It's sad that we actually have to pay to have water purification plants, and then we have to pay to clean the water that we drink in our own homes because they add so many chemicals. It's and you obviously don't want that in your yard. You don't want that in your garden. The stuff's toxic. It's bad for you. Don't do it. Oh, awesome. Yeah. Well, that's why I came on today. And I'll get back on that and I'll end this because I don't want to hold up anybody and I don't want anybody to slow down their life because of me. You know, I hope everybody gets their hands on a copy of the book and utilizes it and pays attention to the detailing. It's such a small book at 114 pages, but it's packed full of detail and it's entertaining. It's not like any book you've ever read before in your life. Um, but yeah, we're getting into spring. The clocks have changed. It's time to start looking at some of what we're going to be doing this year in our yards and our gardens. And if we're going to be spending money following this toxic NPK system, or whether we're going to try something different to get healthy and to start fixing our gardens and to start fixing our yards and fixing our trees and turning the system around. We shouldn't be having all of this flooding that is devastating farm after farm after farm. Those areas used to absorb all of that water, but now there's more clay because of the NPK process than there is anything else. The system that they fed us on, the system that they've been pushing down our throats, the only system that's available at the big box stores isn't working. And the flooding is perfect sign that I'm right. Your yard should absorb every drop of water available, and you should never flood. Never flood. There should be no pockets of water in puddling sitting in your yard. It should all absorb. If you've got pockets, there's ways to fix it. The solution is in the guide. The solution is in the book, as our buddy likes to say. Alrighty, Iron Fire. We'll see you, buddy. Have a good one. Oh, sounds like a great day, Mike. So I appreciate y'all stopping in. I hope y'all have your copies of the guides, and I hope y'all have had a chance to find the products that I'm talking about. It's going to change your life. It's going to change your world. And if you're into canning and you're into building your own stockpiles and you're into protecting your family and your homes, follow the guide. You're going to get more abundance and healthier foods and healthier yards and healthier animals than you've ever seen before. So yeah, check Amazon. You can find my book there. Look up Ron Neitzel. Look up the Green Wizard's Guide, or follow the link in the description below. You'll find me there. Y'all have a great day. You know where to find me. I'll be out here somewhere. You'll find me around the web. I appreciate y'all stopping in today. Y'all have a great day. We'll see y'all later.